Hi, this is Scott Coates from the Sonic Collective. I am giving my review here for my pick for March 2017. It is Neil Young's After the Gold Rush. And following this review, you'll hear all the other guys from the Sonic Collective record collectively and chat about their thoughts about it from Calgary, Alberta. Due to time changes, we couldn't all hook up this time. But this album is actually the first Neil Young album I ever listened to from start to finish. And I couldn't believe, kind of in February when I was thinking of my album and I thought of Neil Young, that I'd never actually listened to a whole Neil Young album. So this thing came out in 1970. So wow, 3 years before I was even born. And it kind of came to my attention while watching Dave Grohl's documentary Sound City. And one of the many people featured in that documentary was Neil Young, mentioning that he had recorded some of the vocal tracks for this album and some of the other parts at Sound City. So put it on, and what did I think? Well, number one, something struck me about this album that's come up on a few recent albums from the 70s as well, and that's the length. I think this thing is only about 35 minutes long, and a lot of albums, it seems, in the 70s were about 35 minutes. And you know what? I think it's a great length. If it's my favorite band and the material's super strong, yeah, an hour is great. But it seems back in those days, when I think of old, say like a Great Van Halen album or this one, they were about 35 to 40 minutes. And in a way, it was only the good stuff. There wasn't filler on these albums, and every song you liked. And by the time it was over, you sort of wanted some more. So I've actually listened to this like twice in a row because I got through it and I sort of wasn't tired of Neil Young. So I think, one, there's just a bit of a lesson in length of an album. Like, I'd rather a shorter album with great tracks that makes me want to come back and listen to it quickly. And from the first track on this, like Tell Me Why, you're really in kind of an acoustic wonderland, and this does sound like something from the 70s. It reminded me that this time period was a different era when songwriting was sometimes thoughtful and expressive, and you can really kind of like, it sounds a bit cheesy, but feel Young's soul on this one. He's singing about stuff that he really thinks about and believes in and is passionate about. And then, you know, a track like Old Man that I knew, I'd heard it many, many times, but when you really listen to it, man, it is a seriously moving song. And another thing I loved about this album, and I guess it's just Neil Young in general, is that his voice, like in some ways I don't like the high pitchedness, but in another way, it's super unique. Like there's no other guy that sounds like Neil Young. And when you hear him sing, you immediately know it's Neil Young. My favorite track on the album was Birds, and I think maybe because it's featured in Sound City as they're closing the Sound City studio, it's a pretty emotional moment in the documentary, but it's really, to me, the masterpiece on this album, and it is fantastic. And you know, it really stirs something in me, and I couldn't tell you the lyrics, you know, without it on, but man, it is a really, really deep song that really connected with me. And then, you know, When You Dance, I really love. That's another really great track with overtones of Young's rockabilly that comes through on other albums. I mean, you have some acoustic, but you start to get a little bit more electric impact coming through in the back, but not big, which then reminds you of the later stuff that Young has done, like Rockin' in the Free World, or that this guy can really kick it on electric guitar too. And then, you know, Cripple Creek Ferry, the last song, not my favorite on the album, but it just sort of is like the perfect soft ender to this, and made me kind of think of like what a soothing journey this album is. And this to me is really kind of the perfect Sunday morning with a coffee and book album. And well, I don't think I'm a Neil Young super fan, and I'll probably slowly listen to more of his catalog, and I'm interested in him, but this one was pretty darn good, and it's just rich and full. And I'm going to give it kind of, 4s and 4.5 all the way through the category. So yeah, you know what? Final score for this one, I'm going to go a 4 on it. Great Canadian artist, which has a bit of a special part in my heart. But, this is a solid album. And I think if you're exploring kind of the history of rock, this is a pretty important one. So hope you enjoyed it. And remember, following right after this one, the other guys will talk about their impressions of this album. So stay tuned.
Well, thank you, Scott Coates from Thailand. We appreciate that you made this pick, and it is now myself, Darren Scott, and I'm with Scott Gregory and Alan Dupuis in Calgary. And now it is our turn to pick up where Scott left off and give our three views of the Neil Young album After the Gold Rush. And maybe I'll just start to, open it up to you guys. Maybe Alan, why don't you start us off and just give us some impressions of the album?
Sounds good. This album took quite a bit of repeat listening before it started to grow on me. The first time I hit play, I was instantly like, "Oh my God, I can't deal with his voice. Like it's just weird. It's a weird voice."
I
So
was in the same boat.
it's, one of the biggest questions in my mind was like, how did Neil Young become such a folk hero sounding like that? Like, how could anyone take him seriously? But once you listen to the lyrics and kind of parse through it and reflect on them, it's clear he's got something to say. And I would say the vocals are by far, at least for me, the weakest part of the whole thing. The songwriting's really good, the instrumentals are really good, and once you kind of get used to that shrill, odd vocal thing that he does, I think the album actually gets kind of catchy, and I enjoyed it. In the end, it did take a number of listens, but it was good.
70s were a different time.
Yeah, they must have been.
Yeah, and Alan and I were talking briefly, but waiting for you to join, Scott, and I thought so too. Like I got to say, I respected who Neil Young was, but I've never been. I've brought this up many times. Never been like a slow, folky kind of music fan. I've erred on the more upbeat and I guess. Yeah, just that more upbeat types of music, whether it be punk or even rap or different sides. But and I also struggle with his voice, and I appreciate it, I remember Dave Grohl's always said something too, like he's like American Idol's BS because there's judges say you don't have the perfect voice, but he's like then we never have artists like Neil Young or Bob Dylan even that don't have great voices. But I was totally with you, Alan, on that. Like Scott, what did you think?
Yeah, well, I think, the Bee Gees were active at this time, so Neil Young sounds like a baritone compared to them.
Yeah, that's true.
I found it, like, when he's working in his low register, like on, say, Birds on this album, I just can't get enough of it. But then he goes high, and the first 3 or 4 songs on the album, I was with you, Alan, it just leads right in. He's like, wah! And I'm like, oh my God. I like Neil Diamond's songs, but I don't like Neil Diamond, or not Neil Diamond.
Neil
Oh my
Diamond.
God. Where did he come from? That's next month's review, by the way. Spoiler alert.
No, it's not.
Neil Young. I'm like, I don't like Neil Young. Like his voice, when he hits that high register, it kills me. The only time I really like it is, say, on Southern Man, or on another album, say Old Man is the perfect example where he really saves it for the chorus when he's going high energy, and then I can get into it. But if he's just cruising through an entire song for like 3 minutes way up there, you lose me.
Totally agree.
But I found, and like Alan, and maybe you could finish your thought there, but I found it did grow on me, and as I listened to it throughout the month, like almost every time, I'm like, I kind of like it a little better, and what did you think?
Who are you talking to, me or Scott?
Oh, you, Alan.
Oh, yeah, no, pretty much. I was going to agree with Scott actually about the Southern Man comment. Like, just the vocals there, it almost kind of worked on that track, and I think that track was probably, for my part, or in my opinion anyway, the strongest one.
Yeah, it's funny. I had that written down as well.
Oh, did you? Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely my favorite track. But even those high-pitched early ones, like Tell Me Why and After the Gold Rush, they just, after a few times, you kind of start to like it a little bit, I guess.
I think we lost Alan. Yeah.
Alan, come back.
He'll reconnect. I see he's trying to reconnect. That's okay. We can continue and he'll figure it out. Yeah. So we're using Zencaster. The good people at Zencaster. Good service, but it has kicked us off in the past.
Great time to do a shout out.
Yeah, exactly. Really, this album, and maybe I'll just spew out some facts. I don't know what Scott has said before us because we record separately. But I mean, this album, first of all, his third album, 1970. He had really started, early in his career by himself, and then he went to Buffalo Springfield with Stephen Stills, and then Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young had recorded an album, and then they all kind of broke off and went their separate ways and recorded these acoustic sounding albums. All of them really did. And his band, Crazy Horse, he kind of left them. He used them a little bit, but it was mostly him, and he recorded it in his house. Like I think
Yeah, he brought in stills a bit too there.
Oh, yeah,
on
stills.
the album as well. So
Yeah.
at least on one of the tracks, if I remember right.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so really interesting time, and in 1970, and he was still pretty young at this point, and working on his guitar, and even though his voice is kind of weird. I mean, I think he gets really known for, he was considered, a lot of people say he's the godfather of grunge, hilarious enough. And he did, like, him and Pearl Jam did an album together, right? Like, at a concert, and he toured with them because, and I know Foo Fighters did as well, like, earlier in their career, because they really saw him. He started with the guitar. And I had mentioned before the Rust Never Sleeps album. I highly encourage you to listen to that. It's a lot more upbeat and rocking with Crazy Horse, and the guitar is very grungy for that period of time.
Well, and if you get into, like, say, Harvest Moon and stuff like that, I feel his voice doesn't change a huge amount, but I feel he uses it a little differently. You know, he moves through the ranges a little bit better on that one. Mm-hmm. He's still kind of in a folksy kind of mode there, but I can feel the difference between these two albums 20 years apart.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And we kind of alluded to it, but I guess what were your favorite, I guess, tracks off it? And I think we all said Southern Man. That was definitely one of mine, and funny enough, one of the more upbeat ones, which we were.
Yeah, I like that. Birds was definitely my favorite out of all of them. I like the pacing on it. I like the fact that the piano, he really played that out instead of moving through the guitar like he does on practically every other song. Obviously, he's a guitar player, right? But I really liked him being accompanied by a piano in that one. And I think those were really only the two songs that I liked off of this entire album that I would actually throw on my playlist. I enjoyed the diversity of instruments that he had across all of them. He actually had the flugelhorn. Until Morning Comes, which I really liked. But
I found that was my earworm song. That was the song. I'm like, I'd just be in the car. Gonna love you till the morning comes. I was just stuck in it. Alan, are you back?
Yes, I am back.
Welcome back.
Sorry, what happened there? That was weird. No. Till the Morning Comes was a good track. I will agree with all of that.
Yeah. And Alan, basically, I just kind of said some facts about the album and stuff like that. But and we were just talking about some of our favorite tracks. So you came back and we were talking about Southern Man, and I was saying that Till the Morning Comes stuck in. Anyway, what were your favorite tracks?
Till the morning comes.
Song's like 1 minute long.
Yeah.
Like, did he just not finish the song? And he's like, screw it. We got enough room on the front side. Let's just throw it in.
Yeah.
Cripple Creek Ferry. I don't know if you guys mentioned that while I was.
No, not yet.
Audio. That's a catchy one too.
Hey. Yeah, it is. And it's funny, like, you talk about, you make fun of them, but like, dang, if those songs don't stick in your head. And
I know.
And when really, I think maybe that's the conversation to have is, maybe his voice isn't perfect, and it's not perfect, but man, he is a heck of a songwriter, and tons of people have covered him, obviously, and it goes on and on. And just recently, I'll admit, I have a guilty pleasure that is Iggy Azalea.
Really?
Yeah, and her first album, but she just released a new song called Bounce, and I was like, oh, I gotta listen to it. And I listened, and I'm like, oh my god, this is like the dumbest song in the history of mankind. And I just realized, I'm like, wow, I really appreciate Neil Young now. Like, there's so much garbage and pop and music, and it's just so overproduced and manufactured. You realize when you had a true songwriter artist that could just sit there on his guitar, and like, I think that's what really has sucked me in, and I did enjoy it and liked him. I don't know, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, if you go back into the same time frame, I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but I'm a gigantic Chris Christopherson fan.
Oh, I didn't know that.
For a lot of the same reasons. Very strong writing. His voice, no one would put him, at the top of the list as far as strong voices that are really carrying. Johnny Cash, even, people would not put him at I don't know how to put it other than that, right? They'd say he has a crappy voice, or what are you doing? You don't have this smooth kind of Frank Sinatra voice going for you. But the package is something different. It's unique. Their songwriting really carries them. And I think Neil Young just falls into that category where it hits the ear differently than everything else that's going on at the moment. The lyrics really speak to you. The song itself, as far as instruments, sounds really great. Like I said, there's a lot of diversity from horns, the harmonica, the guitar, lots of piano. yeah, when they're always saying we're looking for that next new voice these days, I think it's really going back to try and recreate that moment where you weren't just manufactured boy bands, you were someone rising up out of the field based on some of these unique kind of scars and bruises.
Definitely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I guess what kind of score are you guys thinking for this particular album in your heads out of 5? Like, I guess what, in the end, what did you really think of the album?
See, I don't want to go first because I don't think I've ever given a 3 before, but
It's all personal opinion.
and he's Canadian, and I really don't want to give one of the few Canadians we've reviewed a 3, but I like some of his later work. Like I said, Harvest Gold is one of the greatest albums I've ever listened to, but
Yeah.
this one, it's too early. He's still figuring things out. Spends too much time in the high register for my tastes. I'm landing on a 3. What about
Yeah.
you guys?
Yeah, Alan?
I'm kind of with Scott, but I'm going to actually, I can't even believe this. I'm going to give it a 3.5. I'm going to be generous. Now, if you'd asked me this, on the first go around the album, I would have been like, nah, that's a solid 1.
Yeah.
But it grows on you, and I can't explain why. Maybe it's just a testament to the songwriting abilities and the song structures and the way they record. I don't even know, but it definitely grew on me, and a 3.5 is probably where I'm gonna land on it.
It's the harmonica.
Yeah.
The harmonica won you over.
Yeah.
Yeah, could have done with some banjo, maybe. I don't know. Banjo would have gotten it a 4. I would have bumped it to a 4. But yeah, I can't say that I'll probably listen to it a whole lot in the future. But I might come back to Southern Man. I might come back to Till the Morning Comes.
Yeah, listen to the Rust Never Sleeps album. I think you guys would like that a little bit more.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, for myself, like I said, I had trouble getting into this as well. I looked it up. It was of the Rolling Stone top 500 albums of all time for rock, number 74.
Wow.
It came in, yeah. But it is, and it's funny, I'm sure you've read the Wikipedia and other information on it, but it did receive mixed reviews. It wasn't really critically acclaimed at the time. There was kind of people like, well, I don't know, it's a little same thing, same complaints, like his voice isn't that strong and things like that. And I think they would be comparing to, because Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young had just had a massively successful album. I think it was their first album together. So they were all following up, and they're like, well, it's not as good as that. I think that's what they ran into a lot of. I've gone back and forth. I'm trying not to, like you, Scott, I'm pretty dedicated to Canadian artists. I do 100% really appreciate what he's done and his talent, and I think his songwriting. That's what really stood out for me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go slightly higher than you guys. I am gonna go a 4, just because I do understand the significance of this. I would say a 4. It deserves a 4. I'm gonna give it to it. But personally, I agree. I think I might come back to it the odd time. I don't own it on vinyl. I usually reserve that for like the stuff I really want. I saw it today. I was just buying vinyl. I'm like, oh, I didn't buy it again, but I may someday. But yeah, I think if it was just personal, I'd probably be in the 3.5 range. But it is definitely worth a listen, right? It's a pretty, it's definitely like out of historical kind of rock albums, and especially as a Canadian, I think you have to, give it its due.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try and find you some Iggy Azalea vinyl.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it's okay. I don't buy that in vinyl. Although I did buy NWA today. I was telling you.
Oh.
Finally on vinyl. I didn't have it on vinyl. I own all their stuff, but yeah. I think, is there, I guess any parting thoughts or tidbits on the album you'd like to add, or I guess would you recommend it? Like I said, I think I would recommend it. Would you guys?
Yeah, I think I would probably tell people. I don't know if I could recommend the full album, honestly, but start with Southern Man. Maybe give Cripple Creek Ferry a listen, and then Till the Morning Comes. Those are the 3 tracks I think that I would recommend to pretty much anybody.
I actually really liked Only Love. Only Love can break your heart. Yeah.
See that the pacing on that was just so horrible.
Yeah.
For me.
I know.
I was like, oh. I felt myself kind of like leaning forward in time with the beat just being like,
Cool.
But even with that, I would still recommend at least one or two listen throughs. Like Alan said, you really have to get past that initial layer of kind of like, I'll call it sonic dissonance, you know, where your brain is just still trying to figure out what's going on. And you get that snapshot of this artist at the start of their career.
Yeah.
And then you can move forward to, like you said, a couple of the other albums and really enjoy this evolution of Canadian music, folk music, like you said, the start of grunge, as far as some people are concerned. And it's a historical landmark that must be observed.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's one of those, and it's funny. There's a lot of like new alt rock and stuff that's pretty mellow and like this. So if you're into kind of folk, mellow alt rock, you would be more open to it. But if you're more upbeat, like us, I think you would, maybe choke on some of the parts. But
Yeah, like Beck's new album. If you like Beck's new album, you'd probably
yeah, exactly.
ease into this.
Exactly. Cool. If there's nothing else, I think we can wrap up here. Always fun to do these reviews. Hey, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. We look forward. Alan's pick, I do have it. I won't say what it is here because go. Yeah, just go. There's another section of our website for the picks, and Alan's will be there. So I'm not going to.
Well, I can't wait. Where is that? Where is that?
It'll be there tonight.
www.thesoniccollective.com.
Exactly. Yeah, so please go there. Please visit us. We do this for ourselves and for fun, but hey, we'd appreciate anybody's input. You can comment on our reviews and things like that. Tell us why you love or hate things, or just tell why you love or hate us. That would be great. But
if you're a Dollar Shave Club, send me razors, and I will plug you.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll take sponsors or one beer. So for Scott Gregory, Alan Dupuis, and myself, Darren Scott, I just want to say thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more Sonic Collective, as each month we will review a classic album and let you know what we thought of it. This is the Sonic Collective signing off.